Connected. Wait till it starts live streaming. Today is a Yom Tiv, a special day of Chai Elul. Most of us have had an opportunity last night to be by Fabrengen, which was also live streamed on the same live streams that this year is live streamed on with Rabbi Darren Mashpia and the Chabad community in Lud. Said amazing things about what does it mean, Chai Elul, the life of Elul. How does it give you chayus? What does it mean, excitement? How could you command someone to be excited? When he was in yeshiva and he was 15 years old, he was one time called over and by one of the Rosh Yeshivas in his yeshiva and told him, "You're learning very well. You're not doing it with chayus, with excitement." He went back to his chavrusa study partner and said, "Okay, let's start learning with excitement." And it lasted for about 10 minutes. And then it went back to what it was before. And then like an hour later, said, "Okay, we have to be excited again. So we have got to do it with excitement." So Chai Elul is the chayus, excitement in Avodah in the month of Elul. So let's talk a little bit about Chai Elul by the Rebbeim in Chabad. So the Yom Tiv of Chai Elul, for starters, it's the birthday day of the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidus in general, Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, and the founder of Chassidus Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, were both born. The Alter Rebbe was born when the Baal Shem Tov was saying Kapitel Mem Zayin. He was 46 years old. The Baal Shem Tov made a big feast for his Talmudim, for his students, one time on his birthday, and that was the year the Baal Shem Tov was born, the year the Alter Rebbe was born. And he told them that a very big neshama is coming down to this world, a neshama from the world of Atzilus, which had never come to the world before. And he's a day that he skipped Tachnun. He didn't say Tachnun in Shul. And Baal Shem Tov was Chazan, he sang it with the tune of he davened with the tune of a Yom Tiv. We also skipped Tachnun in Shul last night, yesterday by Mincha, and today as well. And it's a very big Yom Tiv for many reasons. We'll get into the specialty of Chai Elul. They're both born on a Wednesday, which is a day when the two great luminaries, the sun and the moon, were created. So too, the two great luminaries, the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov, were both born on the day of Chai Elul. And Reb Hillel Paracher said that the 18th of Elul is actually a triple Yom Tov, a triple holiday for the Baal Shem Tov. It's the day he was born, Begufay, Beruchai, Uvenafshay. He was born in body, he was born in soul, and he was born in spirit. He was born in body the year he was born, Taf Nun Ches, which is 1698, the year the Baal Shem Tov was born. When the Baal Shem Tov was 16 years old, 16 years old, that's when Eliyahu Navi appeared to him and taught him. And 10 years later, at the age of 26, is when his teacher, the teacher of the Baal Shem Tov, which was a teacher of Eliyahu Navi, was a Navi Achia Shiloini. We actually just mentioned Achia Shiloini in the Gemara. Remember Achia Shiloini, as long as he was alive, Ezra would not go up to Eretz Yisrael, even though he could build a Beis HaMikdash, because it's greater to learn Torah than to build a Beis HaMikdash. So this Achia Shiloini, he was one of the Jews who left Mitzrayim, left Egypt, and he lived a very long life. He was in the Beis Din of David HaMelech in the Sanhedrin, and he was a teacher of Eliyahu Hanavi. He was the one who anointed Achav, Yeravam and Nevat to be the king. And he was a teacher of Eliyahu Hanavi, and he, in turn, was a teacher of the Baal Shem Tov at the age of 26. And he taught the Baal Shem Tov for 10 years, from the age of 26 to the age of 36. Throughout that entire time, until the age of 36, the Baal Shem Tov was what you call a nister, a hidden tzaddik. He was exceedingly righteous, exceedingly holy. He was called the Baal Shem. A Baal Shem literally means a master of the name, which would be those who use Hashem's name, those who know how to make yichudim, to make different unifications of Hashem's name. It's called the Baal Shem, and they would do miracles with it. Baal Shem Tov was the first one to be called the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov means a master of a good name, meaning that he took the greatness of the Shemus and the names of Hashem that he knows, but he used it to elevate the world, to elevate every single personal individual. However, the Yom Tov of Chai Elul was always a hidden Yom Tov. It was not known among Chassidim, and even among the Rebbes, it was only said over to one Rebbe at a time, was not publicized to family, and it was always said by one Rebbe to the next Rebbe about the greatness, a specialty of Chai Elul. And it was an interesting way. Only the Rebbe who would eventually succeed them. So not all of their children, only to the Rebbe would eventually succeed them. And always at the age of 15, the Frierdiker Rebbe describes how his father, the Rebbe Rashab, brought him in, told him Good Yom Tov, and told him the specialty of Chai Elul when the Frierdiker Rebbe turned 15. And so too it was with all of the Rebbeim. At the age of 15, they were called in by their father or their father-in-law, the Rebbe, and taught the specialty, the importance, and the uniqueness of the day of Chai Elul. Certain individuals, like Hillel Paritcher, knew about it. He says that the Baal Shem Tov was born in body, the day of Chai Elul. He was born in the year 1898, 1698. And then when the Baal Shem Tov turned 16, he was born B'ruchai, in spirit. When he turned 26, his teacher, Achia Shiloni, revealed himself to him. And when he's 36, he was revealed to the entire world. And then he became born for a third time to the entire world, all on the day of Chai Elul. Baal Shem Tov was commanded by his teacher many times to reveal himself to the world. He did not want to do it. The Baal Shem Tov's teacher told him that this is the purpose you were born. He told him a very long story. And this story actually, Adnan Baal Shem, the previous Baal Shem, before the Baal Shem Tov, sent it as a message to the Baal Shem Tov. He says, from heaven they decreed, I cannot meet you, but I want to tell you the purpose of your neshama. And I want to tell you how in Shemayim, in the heavens, they're very angry and they're very upset. Why are you not revealing yourself yet? Baal Shem Tov did not want to reveal himself yet. He did not want to take upon this mission. And so he told him how your neshama came down to the world. He told him the story of his previous Gilgal, his neshama where it was previously, to a certain Jew in Svas, who was an exceedingly holy, righteous, pious Jew, who refused to reveal himself to the world. And he was one of the greatest people of that generation and of many generations, and he refused to reveal himself. And when he came up to heavens and said, wow, what a tzaddik, and the prosecuting side said, he might be a great tzaddik, but what benefit did the world have of such a great tzaddik? He kept himself hidden the entire time. And they decreed he has to come down to the world again, this time not as a hidden person, but to reveal his greatness to the world. And that's you, the Baal Shem Tov. And this is why the purpose of your neshama has come down to the world. And you have to reveal yourself. But Baal Shem Tov still refused to reveal himself.
Who told this now?
Reb Adnan Baal Shem, his teacher, Achia Shiloni. And there's the manuscript of the Baal Shem Tov, it's called the Gnizeh Chersonis, how the first time he met his teacher, Achia Shiloni, and he didn't know who it was. He says, he taught me for 4 years. I did not know who it was teaching me. But every time I would never choose when to learn with him. He would choose when to learn with me. And he would be taken to like a place, and there would be waiting Achia Shiloni, and he would teach the Baal Shem Tov. And he says over the course of 10 years, they went through all 5 Chamashim. They started from Bereshis and finished over 10 years till V'zayis HaBracha. And then the Baal Shem Tov revealed himself. So such a great Yom Tov, great powerful things happen on these days. But it was always hush, hush, quiet. And not just that, there was a warning from the Rebbes from one to the next, keep it quiet. So there's a chassid, Reb Zalman Skabla. He was a Tamim, learned in Lubavitch. And he lived in a town of Rudnia. Rudnia, which is a town pretty close to Lubavitch. It's about about 10 miles away, 3-hour carriage ride. And in the 1960s, so Zalman Skabla was already very old, very Chassidish Yid. He managed to survive the Holocaust, but he was old, he was feeble. And he was a Jew, which, living in Rudnia, all the Jews over there are in the cemetery, either killed by the Nazis or in the Jewish cemetery. And there's no young Jewish generation, definitely not in Rudnia. And in truth is, it wasn't much of Yiddishkeit in many places in Russia, only in the big cities. In Samarkand, which was in far off Uzbekistan, very far away, there's a thriving Chabad community, and they were in constant contact with the Rebbe and had yeshivas and chadarim and always, playing cat and mouse with the secret police and going, one step ahead of them. And being that there was they felt a huge responsibility. We are in Samarkand, and in comparison to the rest of the USSR, we're having a good Jewish life. And many people there felt a responsibility from many other parts, Jews all over the USSR. How we could help them. We have access to tefillin, mezuzah, sefer Torah, chadarim. Some of them had access to funds, to money, which was very, everyone in Russia was poor. And so they went around on missions all over, different chassidim from Samarkand, quietly, hush hush, went on missions for the Rebbe.
About what year?
In the 1960s. Yeah, they went on secret missions for the Rebbe, some of them. Finding handwritings, kisvei yad, manuscripts from Chabad Rebbeim, from all the Rebbeim, finding special of old Sfarim, Sefer Torah, and different things. And one of the things they also did was trying as much as possible under the circumstances to renovate all the oyels of all the previous Rebbeim. Now, in Lubavitch, the oyel was destroyed, the oil of the Reb Marash and the Tzemach Tzedek was destroyed even before the communist takeover. After the Frierdiker Rebbe left Lubavitch, after the Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe left Lubavitch, the local non-Jews, local non-Jewish population, they destroyed the oil and everything about it. And then when it came to World War II, the Nazis bombed everywhere. And they bombed every single house in Lubavitch except for one, which is where one stone building in Lubavitch still there, a place of the other religion. It's the only place not bombed. And the Jewish cemetery, they knocked down all the gravestones as much as they can, which anyways, many of them fell down from disrepair. Frierdiker Rebbe visited Lubavitch in 1923, and he had so much anguish seeing what turned out from the town of Lubavitch, which just a few years ago was a capital of Chabad, and he couldn't get himself to go back again to Lubavitch. He says many stones from the oil are now being used as doorsteps to people's houses. And in Lubavitch, so there's no Matsevas gravestones of the Rebbe Marash and the Tzemach Tzedek. They were knocked down. Now, there's a chassid, he's still around, Abba Gorevich. He lived back then in Samarkand, and he decided he has to do everything hush hush. Obviously, he'll never get permits for it, but he's going to go travel to Lubavitch and to try renovating, see what he could, to fixing up the kfarim of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash. And it's a whole long story how he has to travel and he had to, bribe himself to buy a ticket on a plane going to Moscow. It's about a 6-hour flight because he would never risk taking a train across the country. And he gets there. Lubavitch was a closed military zone, but yet he snuck himself in somehow. Comes to the town of Rudnia, and he meets his elderly chassid, Reb Zalman Skabla. And it was a day of Chai Elul. And so being that they're in Samarkand, they're getting by whichever backwards ways they are able to get. They're able to get reviews of maybe a year later, but Sfarim, which came out from the Frierdiker Rebbe, Maimarim, Sichos of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of the Rebbe, and he comes to Reb Zalman's Kabbalah, and he tells him that we want to go to the Oil in Lubavitch, and we need somebody who knows exactly where the places of the Kfarim, of the graves are. He said, well, I would love to come with you, but I'm so old, I don't have the strength to travel to Lubavitch, which is amazing. He didn't have strength to travel from Rudnia to Lubavitch, 10 miles. But about 4 years later, he got permission to leave Russia. Baruch Hashem, he finally made it to Eretz Yisrael. Spent the last few years of his life in Baruch Hashem in Eretz Yisrael. And all of his children and grandchildren are a very beautiful Chabad family till today. They all stayed frum in Russia.
Which is a remarkable achievement.
Right. They're leaving Russia in the 70s and still staying frum and everything. And Chassidim and everything. So, but once he's there, Rambam's Kabbalah says, you're, a breath of fresh air. I haven't seen another chassid in years. Sit down, come have a talk, let's have a fabringen. And so he speaks about today's Chai Elul, it's the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. And this chassid, Rambam's Kabbalah says, what? I never heard of this. He says, I was in Lubavitch by the Rebbe Rashab for years. I was a chayus. He said, review the Maimarim. We never heard of this. And now all the young people come and suddenly tell us so many things that we had no idea of. These are people which never saw the Rebbe, and never were by the Rebbe, and never were in a real yeshiva of Tomchitz Mimim. So it's a Yom Tiv which was revealed in more recent times. And more specifically, when the first time was really publicized was when the Frierdiker Rebbe published it in a sefer called Hatamim, after the Frierdiker Rebbe left Russia. Frierdiker Rebbe printed was called the Gniza Chersonis, a lot of private letters, which the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter and the Maggid Mizrich and students of the Baal Shem Tov and correspondence that they had, and was never published, was always private among the Rebbeim, and then Frierdiker Rebbe published it for the first time. And there it spoke about, for the first time, how Chai Elul is a day of the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the birthday of the Alter Rebbe. That's the first time really it's ever really mentioned. And the Baal Shem Tov writes that when I turned 26, the night of Chai Elul, or the day of Chai Elul, I was in the city of Akup, the city where I was born. At midnight, my teacher revealed himself to me, and we started learning the Chumash together, and it took us 10 years to learn Chumash, and then I revealed myself. From there was the first source that we knew, in public at least, that the Baal Shem Tov was born on the day of Chai Elul, because the day I turned 26 on Chai Elul. So it was always a hidden Yom Tiv, which was only revealed to the next Rebbe at the age of 15. The Frierdiker Rebbe is the first one to reveal it after he left Russia in Poland, and much more when he came to the United States, when he came to the US. Frierdiker Rebbe describes what happened when he turned 15. The Frierdiker Rebbe told him the day before, in Yud Zayin Elul, tomorrow morning, go to the mikveh very early. Don't say Tachnun, because it's Chai Elul. The next morning, he went to the Rebbe Rashab's room. The Rebbe Rashab was very happy. Told him, good Yom Tiv. For us, it's a Yom Tiv. Today is a birthday of the two great luminaries, the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe Rashab was wearing his Yom Tiv clothes. He put on his shtreimel, came in the next room, came back, and he said a mimer just for the Frierdiker Rebbe, a very deep mimer. And he says, every single generation, you have the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. And Moshe Rabbeinu was rewarded with 50 gates, Sha'arei Bina. The Baal Shem Tov is the Moshe Rabbeinu of his generation. And he is our Moshe Rabbeinu, and Alter Rebbe brought the 50 gates, Sha'arei Bina, into the Torah of Chassidus. And Chai Elul is a day of simcha and a day of joy. When the Frierdiker Rebbe came to America, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and this is today's Hayom Yom. And in today's Hayom Yom, you read it, and it's almost not. It's very easy to gloss it over unless you actually know, you keep track of the years. It says in 19. This is the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said in the year on Chai Elul, in the year of 1892, before Kabbalah Shabbos. That's what we read Hayom Yom, and it tells you it was a Torah from the Baal Shem Tov on V'haya Kisavei Ala Aretz. As a kid, I always, okay, fine. I don't know if I remember the Torah, but fine, I know what the Hayom Yom is. Until I learn the dates, and it says, hey, wait a second, in 1892, Baal Shem Tov passed away in 1760. Right? How so? Here is a Baal Shem Tov said in Chai Elul in the year 1892 before Ma'ariv. So there's a sicha from the Frierdiker Rebbe on saying over what the Rebbe Rashab saw.
Did you say the Baal Shem Tov in the year 1892 should
said, yeah, 7 Torahs from the Baal Shem Tov. We have 7 Torahs from the Baal Shem Tov, which he said in Gan Eden on Chai El in 1892. And the Rebbe Rashab said these Torahs over. We're not saying in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. Later on, the Frierdiker Rebbe said over these Torahs, and he revealed all of them. And he said, like, straight out, how the Rebbe Rashab was in Gan Eden for the celebration of Chai Elul, and was on a Shabbos. And he describes everything, the whole entire environment, and the Baal Shem Tov spoke 7 times throughout that Shabbos. He describes who was at every single one of these 7 different Torahs. And usually visions, which the Rebbeim have, they usually kept quiet, private to themselves. Even if they revealed it, they wouldn't say that it was revealed, where it was from. For example, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in America once, after being here for 4 years, in the beginning, the first year he was here, he said a certain thing, certain story, or a certain thing that 3 years later, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, this story was told to me in a dream. Just, I didn't want, the ear in America wasn't yet refined enough to accept the fact that you could hear something in a dream. The Rebbe could learn something in a dream. It says, before the Rebbeim left Lubavitch, there were many Sfarim which he sent to be burned. And someone was looking at this Sfarim, even though he wasn't supposed to, saw it was a notebook which was written by one of the Rebbeim, which said, teachings taught to me in a dream, revealed in a dream. So certain things were never revealed. We're always kept private. In the Rebbe's private Rishimis, the Rebbe's private notes, which were publicized after Gimel Tammuz, or some of the, or it's also one of the diaries of the Frierdiker Rebbe. You have the Frierdiker Rebbe speaking about a certain day when he wasn't talking about in 770 in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Yechidus room, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said, my father was there, which was the Rebbe Rashab, his father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak of Avruch, and his grandfather, the Rebbe Marash, were all in the Frierdiker Rebbe's room, Yechidus room, and he describes the conversation they were having. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, in the middle, my wife walks in, his Rebbetzin Nechamadina. And she looks, and obviously she's not being on the level of a Rebbe, she looks and she says, like upset at the Frierdiker Rebbe, who let in all these people here? And the Rebbe Rashab turns to her and it says, it's not fitting for my daughter-in-law to be so upset, to be angry like this. And the Rebbe Nechamadina screams, oh, it's my shver, my father-in-law. And she got scared and she ran out of the room. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, I'm saying, describes all this.
I think I'd be scared too.
So the vast majority of these things were never revealed to us. From the Rebbe, very little of this type of thing was revealed to us. From here and from there, you'll hear a story from a couple somewhere who would say something about the Rebbe, but the Rebbe revealed very little of this to us. Maybe because for our generation, either we're not worthy or it's not applicable to us. But for what's interesting is that Chai Elul is one of the days where the Frierdiker Rebbe says about what happened in Gan Eden on that day. And when the Rebbe a few times explained some of these 7 Torahs one after the next, we can understand from there, when the Rebbe would explain something, it's because something was going on Mamaila above. Oh, Rebbe Levi, Shekoyach, for joining. The Rebbe would only fabring Chai Elul in the early years of the Nesius only if it was on Shabbos. So from the year 1971 and onwards, the Rebbe always made a fabrengen on Chai Elul with special mamarim. And in general, the minig by most Hasidim is not to say Tachnun on the day of Chai Elul. We were big Shabbos. In the year 1989, the Rebbe was asked, should we say Tachnun Chai Elul? And the Rebbe answered, in things which depend on your feeling, on a personal feeling, you don't ask questions. If you're asking a question, it shows you don't have a feeling towards it. But the Rebbeim would not say Tachnun on the day of Chai Elul. And the Friedrich Rebbe said one time something, but the Rebbe spoke about this theme a lot. Chai Elul, Chai means life. Chai Elul is the chayus, the life, the excitement of Elul. And Rabbi Darren Svabrengen spoke about that theme for quite expounding on it. Like, what does it mean to be excited? How could he tell someone to be excited? Why should I be excited? Elul is a avodah of ani l'doidi v'doidi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Awaken ourselves to come closer to Hashem, and to Hashem in turn also coming closer to us. Now, there's from Chai Elul till the end of the month, there are 12 days. Each day, he said, it corresponds to another day of the year. It's a day to make a cheshbon nefesh, do tshuva for the past year. Huh? For the month of the year. So Chai Elul corresponds to the month of Tishrei. That's why it's such a Yom Tov. Tishrei is a month of holidays, Yom Tovim. Chai Elul, in turn, is also a day of Yom Tov, as a holiday. And any simcha you were missing during the month of Tishrei, you have to make it up now. And especially his idea of Hakel, gathering Jews. It's very important to get out, which we start in the month of Tishrei, and that's when the main mitzvah of Hakel was. So that's today is the day of Chai Elul, the day to do it. To increase anything we didn't do yet enough in Hakel from this year. It's a cheshbon of Hakel. The month of Tishrei is the day we make hachlatas. Some of us kept all our hachlatas we made during the month of Tishrei. Some of us only tried keeping it or thought about keeping it, but all of us definitely thought about the idea of achlatas, a resolution you could take upon yourself in the month of Tishrei. If one did not do it in the month of Tishrei, you have the day of Chai Elul to think about it and to do asay tov, to do tshuva on that day, and to implement it in the year to come as well. So the day of Chai Elul was always a very big Yom Tov, a day of a fabrengen. Last night it was a fabrengen with Rabbi Darren. Tonight for Greenfield will be another fabrengen in the Rothman house. Now, very few people, you could say, almost nobody, has this distinction that the neshama is a neshama chadasha, a neshama which never came down to the world before. The idea of the Alter Rebbe, neshama chadasha, why did he have to be a new neshama, a new soul coming down to the world? The Alter Rebbe is revealed in the world what the Baal Shem Tov's teachings of Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, love of Hashem, and fear of Hashem. The Alter Rebbe brought it down how you can make it practical in your life. Look at Tanya. The whole entire Tanya is a very practical sefer. Tanya is saying that I have a big struggle inside of me. You know, what's all these lofty things you're talking about? How is it connected to me? And the Alter Rebbe says it's connected to you. You have two souls inside of you. And if anything is if any time you're feeling down, you're not connected to it, it's a valid feeling. It's your nefesh habahamis. But you should know you also have a nefesh elokis, a godly soul. And don't think that it's so hard. The whole entire Tanya, it says, Ki karev elecha davar me'od. It's very close to you. It's one small mitzvah, one small dozen of mitzvah, turning away from something wrong is big enough to awaken your entire neshama and to make your nefesh elokis, your godly soul, overpower the animal soul. And that leads you to avas Hashem and yiras Hashem, love of Hashem and fear of Hashem. A mashal was given once by one of the elder chassidim from the earlier generations. It says, Baal Shem Tov, he gave the materials, the strings, the thread to make a garment. The Alter Rebbe took the threads and he wove a beautiful garment out of it. That only an original garment that was never able to be designed before. Alter Rebbe was a new neshama. What's the reason Chassidus was revealed all these generations later? We're talking about 5,000 and 700, 5,000 and Taf Kufay, 5,505 years after creation, Alter Rebbe was born. Why suddenly did it take so long for Chassidus to become revealed? Where was it all these years before that? There's two reasons why Chassidus was revealed in later generations, not in previous generations. One reason is because it's sort of an antidote, a medicine. The darkness of the galus, of the exile, is getting harder and harder and more difficult and more difficult. And the lines between Kedusha and the opposite of Kedusha, holiness, and the opposite of holiness are becoming more and more blurred as time goes on. And the persecutions, unfortunately, of the Jewish people are much stronger. And in order to, when someone's in critical condition, you give them much stronger medicine. And therefore, Chassidus had to be revealed only near the end of the Galus, the end of the exile, when things got really bad, really tough, right after the Cossacks, when it was a destruction of 1/3 of the Jewish nation. And of course, we see the world temptations and tests are getting so much stronger. We never had such a situation where the mass majority of the Jewish nation does not know even about Torah mitzvahs, know about Yiddishkeit, know about Hashem. So in order to strengthen ourselves against the darkness of the galus, of the exile, that's why Chassidus was revealed. That's one reason. That's the first reason. There's also a much greater reason, much higher reason. Because we're getting closer to Mashiach. And in order to get us used to the Torah, the style of Mashiach, shouldn't be something completely new. On Erev Shabbos, it's a mitzvah to taste the food for Shabbos. In order for us to become accustomed already to the secrets of the Torah that will be revealed when Mashiach comes. It says the Torah of Mashiach will be so great that even the greatest insights of Torah we have now will be so insignificant and inconsequential in comparison to the Torah of Mashiach. So Hashem gave us a special gift of the Torah of Chassidus to already have a foretaste what the Torah of Mashiach will be like. Chassidus elevates, Chassidus raises up a person. Chassidus instills, gives us an injection of avas Hashem, love of Hashem, and yiras Hashem, and awe of Hashem. And it does it all in a way of simcha, in a way of joy. It shows how every part in Torah is connected to each other. One could do teshuvah, returning to Hashem, while at the same time having a ava, a love to Hashem, and a yira, and an awe of Hashem, while it's all connecting to the avodah of bringing Mashiach closer. So this is what Mashiach, this is what Chai Elul teaches us. Now, we'll conclude with just a short anecdote, or several short anecdotes. Chai Elul, 18th of Elul, in the repertoire of Chabad Chassidus, is already a very historical day. Shin Samech Tes, 413 years ago, was the yard site of the Maral of Prague. Dovi, how many years ago what year was 413 years ago?
So you have 2028,
1609.
and he was my uncle and cousin.
And he was a relative of Dovi. So Maral of Prague, he was Alter Rebbe was direct descendant. He was a son, like about 6 or 7 generations later. Was a Maral of Prague. He has dozens of Svarim. We quoted from him many times in the Gemara. And we're all, by the way, connected to our Gemara learning, because the Gemara we're up to Masechta Megillah talks about Shemona Esrei, about the 18 brachas of Shemona Esrei and the orders of it. So we're in the 18th of Elul. Maral of Prague, he was, many of his Svarim, he has Svarim on Mashiach, Svarim on Eretz Yisrael, have many of the Yesodus of the foundations of Chassidus Chabad is in the Maral of Prague. The title page of Tanya, it says that it's based on Svarim and Seifrim. It's based on recent teachers and older Svarim. So recent teachers is Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid is rich, and the older Svarim is the Shalah and the Maral of Prague. So he was nifter on Chai Elul at the age of 98, very old for those times. The Baal Shem Tov was born on the day of Chai Elul in the year 1698 at the age of 13. He started, it's the first time he saw Eliyahu Navi. For 3 years, he saw Eliyahu Navi. Age of 16, Eliyahu Navi started teaching him. And at the age of 26, Yudkei Vavkei, that's when his teacher, Achia Shiloini, revealed himself to the Baal Shem Tov and taught him for 10 years, until he was revealed 10 years later at the age of 36, when he was commanded to reveal himself to the world. Chai Elul is also the day when Alter Rebbe was born, in the year 1745. Chai Elul is a day that the Mittler Rebbe moved to Lubavitch on the day of Chai Elul. And so the term Lubavitch Chassidim, and we were in Lubavitch for 102 years, our sojourn, that started on the day of Chai Elul. Chai Elul is a day when the yeshiva of Tamchei Tamimim, which we can give a whole class just about Tamchei Tamimim, they started learning on the day of Chai Elul in the yeshiva of Tamchei Tamimim in Lubavitch. And in our generation, in more contemporary generations, Chai Elul is when it was revealed to all of us what's special about the day of Chai Elul. One thing the Rebbe will talk about in Lan Chai Elul is to increase in giving of tzedakah. Especially, we're coming to the month of the month of Tishrei, with the whole idea of tzedakah is tzedakah tzion v'mishpat tipada, to make sure we have a good judgment is by giving tzedakah. But also another important thing is saying a lot of Tehillim. We say Tehillim every day, 3 extra chapters during the month of Elul. Chai Elul is not merely something which happened a while ago, but it's something which is applicable to us. For example, seeing and learning about how, you see, Chai Elul wasn't just a one-time thing, that Baal Shem Tov's birthday. But we have the Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov taught in Gan Eden, and it was revealed to us and published, telling us we should know Chai Elul is going on right now, currently in Shemayim. There's big Fabringas going on in Chai Elul. The Yeshiva of Tamchei Tamimim, which was established on the day of Chai Elul, the Rebbe said that people should make a point to walk into yeshiva at least a little bit during the day of Chai Elul. The Rebbe would give out what's called Michtav Klalim, letters for every single, like communal letters, public letters. The first one that the Rebbe gave out, the Rebbe wrote and published, was on the day of Chai Elul. Somebody one time wrote to the Rebbe that he hasn't received any letters from the Rebbe in a very long time, in over a year. And the Rebbe says, since then, I wrote 6 letters to Kol B'nai Yisrael, to every single son and daughter of the Jewish nation. So I wrote to you already 6 letters. That means it's not a joke, that it's just a public statement. It's something that the Rebbe would have specific intention in mind. The Rebbe started a fund called Karen Schneer, a fund for the Alter Rebbe's name, which is to strengthen any organization which learns Tanya and Shulchan Aruch and any Torah of the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe started also in the year 1974, Tafshin Lamed Daled, a new concept called tankistim. Tankistim are the tankists, the mitzvah tanks. Started right then. And Chai Elul, the Rebbe started, by the Efabrengen, the Rebbe started giving out dollars to only tankistim, to those who go on a mitzvah tank and go on Mitzvahim.
Let's say the mitzvah tanks were made on Chai Elul.
They started before that. They started in the summer. But the Rebbe started giving out dollars to tankistim, a pile of dollars. At the end of the Fabrengen, whichever people would go on the mitzvah tanks, which were mostly the Bachrim, a single one, they would go by, and the Rebbe would give them a stack of dollars, and they would give it out to everybody else.
You are surrounded. Put on tefillin now. Surrounded by tanks.
And the Rebbe says everyone should take only $1. There's no need to take more. But the ideas of the tanks at that point, there were only 5 mivtzaim. They weren't yet all the mivtzaim yet. Tefillin, Torah, mezuzah, staka, and bayis malei sfarim. The Rebbe had 10 mitzvah campaigns. One of them, which was the mitzvah, the Avas Yisrael campaign, also started on Chai Elul. And the Rebbe gave out a special kuntras, a pamphlet memorum called Kuntras Avas Yisrael. It's a collection of teachings of all the Rebbeim about Avas Yisrael. And the Rebbe was the one who gathered them together. And the Rebbe asked that for every a personal request in the year 1985 in Chai Elul, that the Rebbe asked, please, a personal request. There's the Rebbe saying what's happening from Shemayim, obviously. There's decrees that are threatening against Yiddishkeit, against the Jewish people. And therefore, everybody should please increase in Tehillim. The Rebbe said this on the day of Chai Elul. Tehillim has a special power, and tzedakah takes away the bad decrees, and Tehillim takes away bad decrees. And therefore, when everyone has some free moments, some free time, you should say Tehillim, say it in a good and a happy mood, but say Tehillim whenever you have a free time. And the Rebbe says, although that year Chai Elul was a Shabbos, we still talk about giving tzedakah, and everyone should give as much as possible, a fifth, meiser, a fifth, and even more. So these are some of the things that the Rebbe said we should do on the day of